Hey guys, this is Callum from English Shooting and welcome back to the channel. There's a circular currently going around which is informing current firearm licensing department, firearms owners and certificate holders of various changes that are coming into place. The main change that is getting everybody talking is around the unique identifying marks, and this has links to the legislation that the EU Parliament brought in around unique identifying marks, which grew fears that every pressure bearing or every controlled component of a firearm would need to have a unique mark or serial number going forward, and potentially would even have to go back and serialize other older guns as well. Now, this is really the first sort of change of rules that we've seen that is in some way incorporating these unique identifying marks, and within this circular there are a number of elements. The first being around the theft, loss or destruction of a firearm, shotgun, ammunition or certificate. Firearm and shotgun certificates, information to be recorded, and notifying the police. So I'm going to go through each one and try and break them down and put them into layman's terms. Just a caveat, I'm not a legal expert and I'm certainly not a legal advisor. A lot of this is my own interpretation, as a lot of our laws can come down to interpretation. But one thing is, I have had it confirmed by one firearms licensing department how the unique identifying marks are going to be applied, and whether you're going to have to retrospectively serialize every pressure bearing part. But we get onto that in a second. Really though, there's no real huge change. A lot of what is being changed in the rules is pretty much what we're already doing at the moment. There's just a little bit of clarification. So the first segment is clarifying around the theft, loss or destruction of a firearm, shotgun, ammunition or certificate, and it states that in those events the certificate holder must, as soon as reasonably practical, but in any event within 7 days, notify the police. In practice, if you lose or have stolen any of your guns, you're going to want to get the police involved pretty sharpish. One, you're going to want to try and get those guns back, and also you want to mitigate any liability of those guns being used in crime. If you don't tell the police that potentially a criminal could have hold of your guns and they go and commit a robbery with them and they find them at the scene and they're linked back to you, well, it's going to be maybe a little bit harder to go, no, that wasn't me, that was someone that stole it. So you really do want to get straight on the phone with the police. They're going to have to be the first people that you really want to be contacting in those events, but you do have that maximum of 7 days. Something a little different is the certificates. This is putting it in black and white that if you lose, destroy or have stolen your certificates, again you must notify the police as soon as practical, or a maximum of 7 days. But the one that has got really everyone talking about this segment is the ammunition, specifically the destruction of ammunition. How many times have you been down the range and you've had a faulty round and you snapped the head out of it or pulled the head? And technically, as this is worded, you would have to notify the police around this. However, I would say in practice that the police are not going to want to know about a faulty round that you've had to pull the head out of. What they are more concerned about is when ammunition is lost or stolen. Again, they don't know where that's going to end up and who's got it, so they want to be aware of any ammunition floating in the ether. Overall, I don't think a huge change, nothing really to be worried about with this. The next segment is around the notification of your police force. Of course, if you buy, lend, sell, trade, swap, gift, whatever, a firearm to another certificate holder, you do need to notify the local police force, your local firearms licensing department, just so they know where that gun is, who's now in possession of it, and is therefore responsible for it. Now, previously you could do this through a number of ways. You could do it through email, you could do it through the post. What it's now specifying is that they want it through permittable electronic forms of communication. This is, in my mind, a good sign of streamlining and making the firearms licensing departments more efficient. It takes time and manual labor to go through the post and log everything that comes in physically. Through electronic forms of communication, it's easier to log, it's easier to update electronic records from. So I think this is actually a promising step in the right direction for more efficiency within these departments. However, it sort of cancels everything out, which says if you're not able to use an electronic form of communication, then just send it in anyway. So it's pretty much saying we would prefer you to email us or to use a secure form of communication electronically with us, but if you can't, then please go and use the post, use the old-fashioned way. So again, not a huge amount of change. I can see new systems coming out in the future. At the moment, this is predominantly done through email, obviously with GDPR and being as secure as possible. I could see this being phased away and having a proprietary system. This is going to go hand in hand with an online certification system, which again, a lot of people are pushing for, and having electronic records of your certificate that can be quickly and easily updated or brought up. This is something that we all want. Again, it brings to efficiency, but so far not a huge amount of change. Now, the one that you're probably watching this video for are these unique identifying marks, and this comes under the section of firearm and shotgun certificates information to be recorded. This is the biggest segment of this circular, and again has the most interest of any of the other announcements or rule changes. The terminology being used, unique identifying marks, is what everybody is worried about, having to potentially go back and serialize every controlled or every pressure bearing part on your firearm. But having it confirmed by a firearm licensing department, this is not going to be the case. So what is going to happen? Well, they are actually changing the structure of the certificates and also the application forms so that you can put down unique identifying marks. Take the Benelli range of shotguns. It's quite common to see a barrel with a different serial number to the receiver, and sometimes even a bolt serial number differing from both the barrel and the receiver. And under the EU directive and legislation that has come in from the EU, which we have chosen to adopt, we are required as a country to make note of all of these essential components, i.e. controlled or pressure bearing. Now, essential actually has quite a lot of significance in that word, because it doesn't necessarily mean controlled or pressure bearing, and we get into a lot of discussions about receivers and certain components. Basically any component that is integral to the function of the gun is going to be deemed as an essential component, and where you draw the line of that can be up to debate. But basically you need to be able to fire a round. Is this going to be firing pins? Well, this is what people were worried about. Where do you stop? How many serial numbers are you going to have on your gun? How many lines are you going to have to put down on your certificate when you buy a new gun with all these different serial numbers? Well, this isn't going to be the case. First off, they have clarified it's not going to be retrospective, so you're not going to have to change anything previously. You're just going to have to make a note of any different numbers that are on any guns that you acquire going forward, and this is both for firearms dealers and for certificate holders. So they need to change the system to be able to give you the space and give you the boxes to be able to put this information in. But we are not going to be required to put unique identifying marks on all of the different components. This is only if there are different unique identifying marks. So it's actually pretty straightforward. Yes, it's a bit more admin, it's a bit more paperwork. I'm not entirely sure what they're trying to prevent or trying to solve here, but overall it's a lot better than we thought it was going to be, and shouldn't create too much aggro. So we won't have to all go out and buy fiber laser markers and laser engravers to be able to comply. And again, this is only going forward. All of these rule changes are coming in on the 7th of May, and it's only if you obtain a new certificate going forward from then. So if you have a renewal, if you have a variation, or you are a new applicant and you get a new certificate. So any current certificate holders, unless you're going for a renewal or a variation, everything will stay the same. You're not going to have to suddenly rush out and make note of all these different serial numbers. There is a little line that says that you may have to inform the police so that they can hold on to these records. So if you have a, let's say, old style of certificate pre-May the 7th, then you buy a gun, you're going to have to then tell the police of all the different serial numbers so that on their new system they can keep a log of it, so that when you eventually get a new certificate, it will all be on there and hopefully be up to date and be accurate. I have to say, with all of the information that is already held on a certificate, I do see, unfortunately, a lot of errors and a lot of mistakes, and this is going to increase that significantly. So I can see a little bit of sort of growing pains, a little bit of a headache going forward, but overall I don't think it's too bad. It's not in any way more restrictions, it's just a little bit more time when you sell or buy a new gun. So I really hope that clears everything up. Again, I just want to caveat, I'm not a legal expert or a legal advisor. A lot of this is my own interpretation and based off of what I have checked with other people, but overall this seems to be the general consensus, and again, I don't think it's going to be too much pain in the long run. So there we go, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it and found it useful, please give it a big thumbs up and please consider subscribing for any future videos and content. And as always, guys, I hope to see you soon.